This week's guest is music producer, DJ, podcaster, and the soul behind the popular Instagram account, It's Daily Manifestation. Sebastian and I go way back, and it's been over 10 years since we've connected. So it feels like a little bit of an understatement to say it was such a treat for the two of us to sit down and catch up on each other's lives and to learn that we've both been on this path of conscious spirituality and being here to be of service for others. Something that's really stood out for me within catching up with Seabass and seeing him in this phase of creation and depth of purpose in his life right now is that he has turned his pain into purpose, and his ability to manifest and to dig deep and bring his passions and ideas out to the world is very, very inspiring, especially for me in this phase of life that I'm in. So if you're listening, Seabass, thank you from the bottom of my heart and my soul. Thank you for sharing your story with me and with everyone here. So highlights from this episode: the story behind why, after losing his best friend and traveling to the land of his ancestors, inspired him to start an Instagram account which shares messages of spiritual strength called It's Daily Manifestation. We talk about our take on duality of men and women within society, history, the present day, and the spiritual sphere. Seabass shares his plans for the future of IDM, and he talks about the responsibility he feels as a member of the diaspora community to honor his ancestral lineage, protect his energy, and stop the cycle of trauma. Of course, there's so much more, and Seabass has so many exciting things coming up. So if you would like to connect with him on Instagram, I have IDM, It's Daily Manifestation, as well as his personal account linked below. And if you really resonate with what he has to say, I highly recommend you check out his podcast, which is also linked below, called The Clairvoyant Path. The last thing I want to say here is this episode is dedicated to the one who brought Seabass and me together and helped us become the people we are today, our mutual angel, Will Reynolds. Welcome to the School of Whispers podcast. This is your host, Stephanie. I'm a licensed acupuncture physician and herbalist with a background in psychology, health sciences, and exercise physiology. Within my own spiritual awakening, I found myself learning pivotal lessons when I got myself to be in silence. Within that silence, the whispers came through. This is my sacred space of vulnerable storytelling where my guests and I share about the magic that comes from a life of following these whispers. I'm grateful you made it here, and I hope this show inspires you to live a life of following your own whispers. Let's get into the show. All right. Seabass! Welcome to the show. It's such an honor. It really is such an honor. And it's so exciting to have you here.
I appreciate you, Steph, for having me, and I feel like this is long overdue, and I'm glad that I've been able to step into this space with you, and that you're holding this space to have me today. I really appreciate it.
It's my honor as well. So to give you, the listener, a little bit of an idea, a little background here. My first boyfriend when I was 15, 16 years old, like first everything, first love, all of that stuff. His very best friend in the world who kept us both grounded because it was a bit of a toxic relationship. Who kept both of our heads on our shoulders, kept us both laughing through the turmoil, was Sebastian here. And that was it was a hard time in my life, and you were, even like when we were breaking up, you were just always a source of groundedness and hope and joy, and I'm forever grateful. And I'm forever grateful for Will as well, because if it weren't for him, we would not be who we are today. So
Yep.
Will's
Amen.
an
Yeah.
angel of ours looking down.
Yes. Yes. Definitely.
Yeah. And so when you and I reconnected recently, and then you shared with me that you have this incredible Instagram page, I realized like, oh shit, Seabass has had his spiritual awakening as well.
Yeah. It's been a long journey. I feel like it's a lifelong journey, and that's something that I've had to learn. But I think that especially after Will's passing, we used to talk a lot about spirituality and what that meant to us. And I think I had to take a step back because my family being from Haiti, very Christian, kind of Catholic centered, and I think I strayed away from the structured religion and more tried to delve a little bit deeper into spirituality rather than religion as a structure. And living in Japan when I was in high school, that really opened my eyes. Studying Shintoism and kind of delving into Buddhism as well. I think that a lot of those seeds that were planted back then are now coming to fruition through my brand and my own spiritual awakening that I've had for sure. I would agree.
That's cool. So that was gonna be my first question is how did this happen? But you kind of answered this. So it happened kind of within high school for you?
Yeah, I went to boarding school, and I spent quite a few years away from home when I was, in my teen years. And I think that those years were very formative in terms of who I am today spiritually. I mean, I was lucky enough to get the experience to actually go and live in Japan for a summer with my first high school roommate, who was also a really good friend of Will, and he showed me what his day-to-day life would have been if he had been a high school student in Japan, but he went to school with me. And so it was really cool to not go to class, not be in an academic setting, but really be living in Japan as a foreign national. It was very, very interesting. And I really wanted to just completely immerse myself in the culture. So I ate everything. I tried to do as many things as I could and just soak up the culture while I was there. And I did a lot of meditation. That's really where I got into kind of trying to become one with my own mind and not conquer the mind. I think that was something that in Western culture, there's a lot of like, you got to conquer this and conquer that. And it's like, I didn't really feel that after I came back. I felt a certain sense of peace almost in the unknown, and that it's okay to not know everything, but the journey that you go through in your own mind is more important than trying to conquer it. So I don't think I quite understood that at age 17, but now being almost 30 years old, it's something that I've come to understand. And through my travels and through my different experiences and ups and downs, I find myself here with you, talking about this. So very powerful. And I think that this will be a lifelong thing for me and for anyone that's been in my life. They know that there's been a lot of transformation in the past year, especially. So very thankful for that.
Hmm. It's I recently somebody was saying, and I couldn't agree more with them that God speaks to us through whoever's around us. And
Yeah.
everything you were saying just now was exactly what I needed to hear and what I've been, thinking about a lot lately and with the mind and finding peace within that. So thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
That was for me.
Yeah.
So something that I noticed that you share a lot on your, well, let's give a plug here. Go ahead and share
Yeah.
your Instagram and actually I would love for you to share the story behind
Yeah.
that. And but what I wanted to comment was that you share a lot of strength, a lot of messages of strength. And so I wanted to delve a little bit more into the story or the purpose behind that as well.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I feel like given the circumstances of the past year, I think that obviously someone, like myself, like you, we knew Will in a certain capacity, and I think that he had an impact on all of us. And I was trying to find a way to honor his legacy, but also to carry on the energy that I felt when I was with him. And we always had fun, he could be a little much at times, but he knew how to have fun. And I think that's something that has stayed with me. But in that same vein, being able to kind of harken in on the power that we all have and search within ourselves. I really wanted to do more introspection. And so solitude has been really big for me over this past year. And through solitude, I feel like I've gained a lot of spiritual strength.
Mm.
Uh, and it's been a battle, it's been a battle. And I'm thankful that I've come this far and that I've had my family and my friends who have supported me. But IDM was really born out of I took a trip to the Dominican Republic with a significant other of mine who's no longer in my life, but a very good person whose idea it was to go down there. That's my ancestral homeland. I'm from Haiti. Haiti and the DR share an island, obviously. They were split up by, unfortunately, the colonizers, and it is what it is. But the island is shared between the two countries. And so there's a lot of similarities culturally. Um, and I don't know, when I'll be able to go to Haiti, but the DR really felt like home. I feel like as a Haitian kid, I was taught like you don't talk to the Dominicans and you don't mess with them and da da da. That it's a complete false narrative. I really felt very welcome down there, and I felt almost as if like I really was walking with my ancestors. As crazy as that may sound to certain people, I'd never felt that way before. It was incredible. And I speak Spanish and I speak Creole, so I was able to communicate in a way that I've never been able to communicate ever. Even in my own household, my mom speaks Spanish, but like we're in America, it's not the same. So I think out of that trip, I came back here and I wanted to find a way to be able to share these things that I was feeling and what I was carrying along on a platform, where I could have an impact on people's lives in a way that's not going to be intrusive. They can consume my content if they want, they don't have to. It's here for the taking, basically. And a lot of people have kind of grabbed onto it. So I started it in June, didn't really see that much growth. And then I came back from LA. I went to LA to go visit one of my buddies, do some music business out there. And when I came back, it just exploded. I don't, I couldn't tell you what happened, Steph, but I started I think I was at like 500 followers mid-August, and I'm now at 12.4 thousand. So it's like,
It's
it's really taken
crazy.
off. It's just incredible. And a lot of it, I think, was I'd like to credit manifestation, but I really do think that I had like a whole tribe of people behind me that were believing in the purpose and in the vision that I had been saying. I was like, I'm gonna get 10,000 followers by the end of the summer, and I didn't know how. And it was getting towards the end of the summer, and I was like, man, this might not happen. And then it did. So I think that there's an incredible amount of power and strength that we all can possess and can grab onto if we really believe in it. And it just showed me that our beliefs really will create a reality. So that was really the idea behind IDM, to share that sort of message with the world and to get people inspired to live the life that they've always wanted to live. If that's not now, then in 5 years, whatever it is, but you got to believe in it first. You have to have that vision first. And I had a vision. I didn't know how it was going to happen, but here we are, and I pray that I can continue to do it every single day. So
Yeah, wow, you give me chills with that. Shit.
yeah,
Wow. What I really appreciate too is that your messages are very grounded, and there's just so many women in the spiritual community already who are sharing. I think that I don't know, with all of this stuff, it's just it flows a little bit more natural within like the communities of women, and
yeah,
you don't really see a lot of men in the sphere. And so
yeah,
and I love that your message, it has a masculine energy to it.
yeah, yeah,
And a lot of what you share is like scenes from the Gladiator, and just all these movies and all these scenes that are really like speaking to that demographic. Do you have a lot of men on your page?
yeah. So
Yeah.
it's funny you bring that up. I've been going over my analytics, and I was just talking to a friend of mine who works in social media and branding, and I started sharing like some new content, the manifestation mantras, and then I'm doing some crystal alchemy cards as well, which is I'm trying to gear that towards a more feminine audience, because I think I have like it's like 75 or 80% males that they just dominate my followers, which again, for sharing clips of 300 and Gladiator and, like X-Men, all these different kind of masculine centered messages and movies, that's what you're going to get. But at the same time, in the comments, I feel like I've learned so much about my community. There's a lot of positive energy and a lot of like healthy masculinity, but also you see the kind of duality between the divine feminine and the masculinity that is being kind of portrayed. A lot of men who are in touch with their feminine side, which I think is really, really important. And that's not touched on enough. Like you'd said, the spiritual community is stereotypically, and I don't even know if this is it's just it kind of is just there are more women in that space. So I feel like I'm trying to connect not only to men who, like me, want to maybe dig deeper on their feminine side, but also to women who may also resonate with the messages that I'm sharing. So yeah, I think that you're spot on. It's a very kind of masculine centered message that a lot of these videos that are doing successful are based around. But I also understand that I have a whole other kind of fan base, if you will, that I need to access. And to do that, I need to make and create content and art that's going to speak to them as well.
Well, I just want to say that I am so grateful that that it is what it is too as well. As you expand, I'm excited to watch it, but I think men need it. They need it so much. I really feel like in this society, men have just are just being put down everywhere. I
Yeah,
had a friend recently message me about everything that she's struggling with going through the world right now. She's really diving strong into politics, which can do that for a person. And one of the last things she said to me, and by the way, like, fuck men. And all the men are making me feel this way, and they're all the evil. And I finally, that's why I was like, I'm stopping you right there because I love men. I have incredible men in my life who are messy and emotional and want to be loved, and they are just as worthy as you and myself. And
yeah,
they are imperfect and they're human. And I like watching, I don't know if you watch Love is Blind on
yeah. I
Netflix.
love Love Is Blind. That's a
So
great show.
good.
Yeah.
Such great trash. Um,
Yeah.
but like this newest season, I don't like hearing how some of these women are talking to men. It's just a lot of put down, and
Yeah.
I'm not here for it. And so I'm really grateful that you can be here to provide and to show what the beauty within the masculine and create like a community for the spiritual men. I was gonna say actually earlier, ladies, if you're looking for a spiritual dude, go to go to IDM because
Yeah.
just enter the comments and find your man there.
Yeah, I mean there are a lot of like-minded individuals, but I think, you've probably experienced this too. I think there is a lot of fear that resides within exploring spirituality outside of religion, and that can also kind of play into the putting down almost, because like
Hmm.
I mean, society historically has been run by men. So I think that that narrative now that we have, the internet, it's like you can just look things up. And I feel like a lot of people, maybe they have a disdain towards that sort of history or that historical narrative. And to try and take that power back, maybe they'll make some of these comments. But I think the biggest thing, especially as a man, is to not take that personally, is to learn the history and understand that this has been a thing throughout history. So the best thing that we can do right now is to just introspect, look within yourself, find who you are, and become the best person, man or woman, that you can be. And that will then give back to the collective. And we will have a better human race as a whole. I think that's like really what my goal is with IDM is to get people to not argue over is Jesus better than source or no, that's not what we're doing in the comments here. We're going to have a constructive conversation about spirituality in these comments. And you do see it, but you also see the other side. So I think it's really important. It's the yin and yang. You have to be able to balance the dark and the light, and you can't have one without the other. So I definitely agree with you. I feel like there's been a lot of negative energy thrown at men, but you could also say the same thing about the feminine community as well. There's been centuries, millennia
Mhm.
of negative energy thrown at women, and women have always had to kind of just suffer through that and bear life and give life. So there's that duality and the mutual respect that we need to have for each other, which I think is lacking a little bit in today's society. So we need
Yeah.
more. We need more of this energy for sure.
Yeah, it's I'm not gonna do well on this quote, but the Einstein quote of you can't use the thing that created the problem to find the solution.
Yeah,
And I
yeah,
think the ostracization, I don't know if that's the word, of feminine energy within society cannot be solved by ostracizing the masculine within
yeah.
society.
Definitely. Yeah, I would agree with that. I feel like that was a lot of what I saw when I was living in Japan because a lot of East Asian and Southeast Asian culture and society is really based on Confucianism, which held men in very high regard, and women will be subservient to men, and that sort of kind of narrative is very strong in East Asian society, and it's a cultural thing. Here in the States, we don't really subscribe to that, which like that's fine. We're a fairly new country, so we're still kind of figuring ourselves out. But studying societies and civilizations that have been around for millennia, I think that that would really, really benefit many, many people who may have these thoughts. And it may allow them to do that introspection because they have a fear of diving deeper because what they've been told or programmed to think since they were little kids is not matching up with what the world is throwing at them right now. And I
Mhm.
think that we're seeing a lot of volatility. We're moving into the age of Aquarius. And the last time we had this, what did we have? We had the civil rights movement. We had women's rights movement. We had labor rights. We had all sorts of different social justice movement and massive societal change that was very, very violent. The Vietnam War was happening during the age of Aquarius. And we had all these different things going on the last time we saw this aligning the stars. So we have to think about that, and we have to think about what's coming next for society. What are we purging out of the old world right now that's welcoming in the new? And I think to your point, you can't use something that has been a problem to find a solution. It's not going to work. That's the definition of insanity. Let's do the same thing over again and see if it works. No, that's not going to work. So I do think that we're coming cosmically into a new time, and that if you're aligned with that, if you are in tune with that energy, you're going to understand what I'm saying. If you're not, that's fine. Maybe you're not there yet. That's okay. It's a lifelong thing. No one ever masters this stuff. It's just you can be in tune with it. Everything is energy. We have the choice to either receive that frequency or to not receive it. So I think that we're going to see a lot of things happen in the next couple of years here that may be bad, but there's going to be a lot of good that comes out of it. Just like there was a lot of good that came out of the last time that we saw this aligning
Mhm.
cosmically. So
Yeah, my Vedic astrologer, he was saying that to take even further back, the last time we were in this age was World War One, and that was horrific and tragic, and it propelled America to be a world power.
yep, yep,
And
yeah.
and then before that was the American Revolution.
The Revolution and the French Revolution. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
yeah, you're hitting it. You're hitting it right now.
Hang tight, fam, because shit's about to get real.
Yeah, I'm with you. Yeah, I think that I don't know. I really I wasn't like into astrology as much when I was in high school. It was more like I was really getting into meditation and those sorts of things. And I feel like I had a mini awakening during COVID. I really got into astrology work, and my girlfriend at the time was very, very into Reiki and Kundalini work. So that was something that I kind of dabbled in a little bit, but I got more into doing readings and using crystals to harness certain energies. And I think that for most men, that's not something that you're doing. That's a girl thing. It's like, no. And I feel like that sort of narrative again is why we don't see that many men be prominent in the spiritual community. But it's really important to go and look at these things and study them and to understand that this power has always been there. Our ancestors used the same methodologies and the same practicalities to get to where we are today. So I think that I tried to strip away the gender roles. And I was like, let me just try and learn as much as possible. And that's led me here. So I'm very thankful that I've had the people who are in my life, even if they're no longer in my life. They've given me certain things that have allowed me to grow as a man and as a human.
Yeah, that's beautiful. I'm so
Wow.
proud of you, Seabass.
Thank you. It's been a long journey. We're still on it. It's gonna be a lifelong thing, but we're here.
Yeah.
We're very happy.
I'm gonna take a moment just to feel to see because I have a lot of things buzzing in my head, but I wanna usually when I get that, it's a cue for me to listen. So I'm gonna
Yeah,
take a moment.
sure.
Yeah, I want to know what your plans are. What are your what is your plan and your further intention with IDM? And also, as we enter this age, it seems like you've thought about this a lot. You've got this head on your shoulders. And I would love to know and for you to share what are the things that you do to keep yourself grounded and to look ahead and move ahead.
Yeah, for sure. I'll start with the IDM. Um, the goal really was to hit that 10K marker because Instagram gives you a different set of tools to use. And unfortunately, they ended the bonus program for real videos, but that doesn't really deter me. That was just a goal of mine to get to that and to have a broader community that I could then really start to delve into coaching and meditations and kind of weekly mantras, that sort of stuff. So I feel like my goal with IDM is kind of threefold. Number one is to really have a community of support for my my people, whoever's in there, men, women, doesn't matter, just a community of support. Number two would be to reveal myself. So I did that. I had the faceless page for a while, but I was like, eventually I'm gonna have to show my face because I want to be able to actually speak to my followers, speak to my community, and hear what they also have to say. So have that kind of duality between the two, and speak with each other. And then I think the third thing was to get more into guidance and using meditation with my community to guide them, but also for them to guide me in terms of what they'd like to hear, what kind of content they want to see, or what kind of readings they want, that sort of stuff. So kind of a threefold, three-layered plan, basically, to have the community, the support system for myself, but also for them, and then also to get into more coaching and meditation, and that personal kind of connection with my followers. And then in terms of staying grounded, I use I use Palo Santo a lot. I cleanse my space quite a bit. I do like to have incense burning basically like all the time almost. I feel like I'm always burning incense. And then I also listen to frequencies. I'm a music producer, so I love music. I feel like it's kind of just like a natural thing for me. And I never really thought about frequencies. But when I think about it now and I go back, music has been a really, really just important part of my life. And I always get goosebumps when I play music. And I don't know what it was. As a kid, I always used to get like chills and goosebumps. And I was like, what is good, bro? Like, why am I just getting goosebumps? Like I'm playing the cello. Why am I getting goosebumps? And that's because, my body was reacting to certain vibration. And that science is so real. And I know that you speak about it and you've spoken about it at length, on your page and in different episodes. But I think that not enough people realize the power and the healing power of sound. People love music. Music is just vibrations. It's just frequencies. So I really do listen to a lot of frequencies. I'll have them playing when I'm working. I even, listen to them in the car before I go to the gym. And then I'll change the playlist and I'll put on some drill rap. But it's like, before I get in the gym,
Yeah.
I'm I'm getting myself down to a level where I can be calm and I can have that kind of clear mindedness as much as possible to be able to move in a much more spiritually centered way. So I feel like that is really how I ground myself. I cleanse my space as much as I can. I try and spread, what I'm doing as much as I can to my friends. And a lot of them now, you remember Alex Reed, obviously.
Yeah.
So Alex is like really big into frequencies now. And like,
Of
I
course he
didn't know that.
is.
Yeah, I didn't know, but I was like, yo, man, that's fire. So I shared my plays with him. And it's just really cool to see these guys that like we used to, lace up the skates or go play lacrosse together and butt heads. And we're listening to frequencies now and doing meditation. It's really powerful. And it can sound kind of like hoopla to some people, but you and I know the strength and the power that lies within this community and also really doing that work and using the science that's out there. This is scientifically proven. They've done the studies where they have rice molecules that they'll shout at and they'll swear at, and then they'll do, I love you and you're great to the other rice molecules. And the one that gets shouted at turns moldy and turns black. And then the one that doesn't get shouted at, it just stays. And it's kind of, it just doesn't, nothing happens to it. It's just fine. It's like, I wonder what that is. So the way we speak to each other, the way we speak to ourselves, what we listen to, all these things, it's really important. And I feel like that is what I've really tried to focus on in terms of grounding myself, especially in this time, where there's so much volatility.
Yeah, there is a lot going. I mean, I guess as is the nature of an election year,
Yeah.
it's yeah, there's just a lot of division, a lot of divisiveness as well.
Yeah.
It was actually 2020 for me that it was in the summer around BLM time. And I remember I was actually with Jack, who's another mutual
Yeah.
friend of ours, childhood friend.
Yeah.
And I was in tears. I was like, I don't know who to vote for. I'm so upset. I just everything. And then he was like, Steph, don't give them your emotions. Don't you see that's what they're trying to do? It's a
Yeah.
harvest. They're trying to extract this intensity of confusion and division and just being like chaotic.
Yeah.
And it was like all of a sudden my tears sucked back into my face and I realized, oh shit, that there I'm being played like a fiddle and always my cat is at my door. Give me 1 second.
You're
He's
good. You're good.
distracting
You're
me.
good.
He's
All good.
Get in here. Okay. Yeah, on those lines, the chaos is a frequency, and the being within your own space and that other frequency that is sound, you can literally look at it within, I don't know, devices that look at frequencies. The name is
Yeah.
not coming up to mind, but you can see that even in water molecules, you can see
Mhm.
that there's a clean vibration when there's a purity of intention or just a pure source. And then there's a chaos when the intention is to bring down.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think that's a really great place to start. And what you said too, I think it's the soil where this all begins is how we treat each other and view
Yeah.
each other. And it's
100%.
and it's the soil that we grow from as well. It's the foundation here.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. I think that that message is not being it's not being proliferated widely enough. Like more people need to hear it because I feel like it's very it feels like a common sense thing where it's like, yeah, like if you treat people negatively, you're probably going to get that negative energy back through karmic cycles. Like maybe not in this lifetime, but when you come back, if you reincarnate, whatever you believe, like you're going to get it somehow. So it's best to be a positive force in a world full of negativity and be true to that instead of choosing, like you said, to be divisive or to kind of take advantage of people's fears, which is that's the name of the game nowadays. I mean, think about how much and I don't want to get into like politics or anything, but like the media, for example, I feel like it's gotten really bad. Like I can't even watch the news anymore just because, and I study political science, you know what I mean? Like this is like my bread and butter. And I just can't do it anymore. Like I'll pop it on for like 5 minutes and I'm like, what is even going on? Like, what is this? It doesn't matter, whatever, left, right, meaning, it doesn't really matter. It's really, really bad energy and it doesn't feel good. It doesn't feel like they're trying to inform people anymore. It really feels like they're just trying to divide and further divide and further divide. And you could put that relationship to a lot of different aspects of our society right now. But I feel like the media is one where, be it radio, music, TV, whatever it is that you consume, like you're saying, it's really important to be mindful of like, what are you actually listening to? What are you listening to all day? What are you hearing? You have even family members of yours that are maybe passing down generational lineage of trauma. That's something that I feel like I've been dealing with as a person who's part of the diaspora community. A lot of Black folks don't realize this, but it's like a lot of what happens in our culture derives from slavery. And it's unfortunate, but it is true. And our parents may not want to hear that. But at the end of the day, if you grew up here and you have a family that's not from here, like myself, that's from Haiti, or maybe you're from Nigeria or Ghana or wherever, the Dominican or Cuba, it doesn't really matter. If you have family that came from somewhere else, that had a way of living somewhere else, especially if you are a black or a brown person, you are probably one going to be part of the diaspora community. And number two, there's going to be a lot of trauma associated with your lineage. So you
Mm.
have to be mindful of what you're consuming from that lineage. And that may be your closest, kin, which is your parent or your grandparent or whoever. It's not necessarily anyone's fault, but what you consume and what you have consumed since you were a child, just because you're from said country, does not need to dictate how you move as an adult when you have your own way of thinking, when you can create your own reality. You're not at your parents' beck and call anymore. I think that's like a really important conversation I've been having with many people who look like me and who don't look like me. They tend to look like me more of the time. But there are different diasporas. You have the Jewish diaspora, you have the Armenian diaspora, you have the Native American diaspora, which is like, that seems like an oxymoron because they were here first. So like, how can that be a diaspora? But Trail of Tears, we don't need to go into it, but it's like there are all these things. There is trauma associated with these movements of people to another place. And the United States is a beautiful place because of that. We're all able to come together here and be Americans at the end of the day. But we all bring different cultures and different foods and different languages that have trauma attached to them. And it's our job as the generation that has been given the internet and different tools to research and to understand that we don't need to carry this on. And then that spiritual lineage is really powerful. And that there are many, many different generations that have come before us who made this possible. So we owe it not only to ourselves, but to them.
Mm.
Try and stop this kind of traumatic, negative energy that is passed down. That in a lot of the cases in the Black and Brown community, again, derives from the modern transatlantic slave trade. And that's just one kind of aspect of the negativity that can be thrown around. But that's something that I've been focusing on, especially within the Black community, trying to speak more about that because I feel like there's a lot of people who don't know because they just don't have the resources. And once they find this stuff out, it's like you've opened a whole new world for them. That was me when I was in college. I really didn't think about this stuff. I think it's very powerful in terms of the frequency and energy that you carry to think about what you're consuming and what you're listening to. And is it dividing you? Is it causing you to have fear about something that really isn't real at the end of the day? We're basically computers. We can be programmed, we can be deprogrammed. You have a virus, get rid of the virus, it's not actually that deep. But it can be if you allow it to be. So
Damn. Thank you so much for sharing that. That
yeah,
yeah, it's powerful and it's something that I don't really think about a lot. And it's a really great reminder because we have our own lineage, we all do, and everything we consume has its own lineage as well. And just being able to have the privilege to question that. Where is
yeah,
this really coming from? Where is truth? And being in this age of information, I think that we forget we forget that it's all at our fingertips. And one
yeah,
piece of information isn't the full picture. It is one piece of this massive puzzle.
yeah,
And you can't stop there. Like even with just health and wellness as a health and wellness professional, I try to remind people do not stop here at this Instagram post and diagnose and prescribe yourself here. Please,
yeah,
please don't because I used to do it and it's a one-way ticket to feeling like there's something deeply wrong with you.
yeah, yeah. I feel that. I feel that 100%. I think that that's kind of the negative part of social media,
Hmm.
and I was talking to a buddy of mine. I was like, am I on Instagram like too much? But then I realized that like I've built my IDM feed at least. It's like very positive, and it really gets me like inspired like every morning, which is crazy to think that Instagram, as a tool is inspiring me. But that's because I built this community, and I feel like you can relate to that as well. You have your own community, and it's all about what you're going to put in. So what I'm putting in, I feel like I'm getting back tenfold because I don't want to have people, make a decision based on one video they watch or one post that they've consumed or whatever it is. But I found myself on my personal Instagram. I was like the doom scrolling and kind of just like that I don't know, you just get sucked in, and it's hard. I feel like it's really hard for people to let go, especially in our generation where, I mean, I remember when there wasn't cell phones. I remember before
Back in the
9/11,
day.
back in the day, like there was like before all this stuff happened post 9/11, where I feel like we lost a lot of civil liberties that people don't even know were civil liberties because it's been
Hmm.
so long. But I remember before them. And I feel like that is the distinction where I'm able to kind of remember the old world and the new world. And it really grounds me. It does. Where it's like, man, you grew up in a time where there was no social media, there was no Instagram, there's no cell phones, man. The cell phone was a big brick, and sometimes you had to like leave it in the car. Like it was not an iPhone. That was
It was
not
too
some.
heavy.
It was
It
just too
was
heavy. I mean, kids
probably
had,
radioactive, which they still are radioactive.
yeah, exactly. But I don't know. I think that like you said, we're very privileged to be in this time right now cosmically because human existence as a whole is a snap of the finger on the cosmic timeline. If you go by the Big Bang theory, okay, 4 billion years. Well, humans, earliest known records. I mean, we go back to like the Aboriginals. It's like 50 or 60,000 years. Like 50 or 60,000 years and 4 billion years. Again, that is just all finite amount of time. We are very blessed to be in this time right now. Uh,
Hmm.
very blessed. And that's a great point that you bring up. The privilege of being able to look up something that our ancestors didn't even know existed.
You had to just accept the local authority and just trust them.
Yeah, exactly. Which is wild to think about. It's the 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 transformation of how we share information and how quick we can communicate. Globalization has, I think, kind of just exploded after the internet. Early 2000s when we were little kids, we saw the advent of that, and then we are here today where this is completely normal. You have the so-called iPad kids, and it's like, what? What does that even mean? iPad kid? Like, I don't know. I thought we were the iPad kids. Like, no, no, no. There's kids who like they don't know anything but like screens, and it's like, oh, I never thought about that.
Yeah, they're
Uh,
being raised by iPads essentially.
it's wild. Schools are using them. So I feel like we are really in a very, very interesting time period for the human race, but also just in history in general. There is like so much war going on, early human history, and it feels like there still is. It's kind of always been that way. But you and I are able to sit here today and have this discussion. I like that wouldn't have really been possible 400 or 500 years ago because you and I both we would not be in this situation. We would have been. There's levels, like you said. There's many levels and layers to this. And once you try and go back and kind of trace that down, it gets really overwhelming because there's so much that you can grab onto and make a point on. But I feel like the broader macro is that we are here in this moment now. We're very lucky to be in this moment now. We are but a blip on the cosmic timeline, and just be thankful for your existence in this form that we've been given. I try and say that every single day. Like, hey, I'm just thankful, man, that I'm in this body and that I'm able to have this human experience and really have a good community around me to have that experience.
To
But
be safe and surrounded by beauty within
yeah,
it. I,
yeah,
I'm I'm going through the cusp of my Saturn return right now, and man, it's tough. It's fucking it's just it's putting me through the fire to be reborn in so many ways.
yeah,
And I have this reminder on my phone to stop and enjoy this moment that I get every 2 days. And it's perfect because, yes, life's been heavy. And yes, I'm in turmoil and I'm surrounded by beauty while within it. And it's really I used to dabble a lot in astral projection a
yeah, oh
couple of
yeah,
years back,
yeah.
and we could go there if we want, but
Yeah.
but it was, after a while it got boring. You can
Yeah.
go anywhere and watch anything, but you don't really feel sensations the way that you do in this body. And it helped, if anything, that journey helped further solidify my appreciation for this incarnation in this absolutely polarizing 3D existence.
Yeah.
It's pretty fucking special. And it's, I think, a very pivotal place for our souls to be at in this
Yeah.
moment.
100%. Yeah. I feel like you know, if you are lucky enough, sounds like you and I have been lucky enough to get into that astral plane. Um, that's a place that can take people, and people won't come back from that. You hear a lot of stories about people who, they had their awakening, and then it was too much, and they are no longer with us in this physical plane. They've transcended. And it's unfortunate because I feel like it is a beautiful thing, but at the same time, there's a lot of chaos in not being grounded physically when you know that you are a physical being here. You're a human being on this physical earth in this realm, but you can access other planes if you're able to transcend your consciousness, which is a very, very tough thing to explain to someone who may have had that fear instilled in them as a kid, which is, if you're a God-fearing person, it's basically my entire family. You're not going to believe in that. And you're going to think that's devil worship or whatever you want to call it, witchcraft or whatever. It's not going to be something that's welcome. And so I feel like people who may have had that, and it's going to be tougher for them to accept it and to even get to that level. But like you had said, appreciating the physical, appreciating the present, what's in front of you is the first step to manifesting anything that you want. That's really, really important. If you can't even get to that point, then it's going to be really hard
Hmm.
to create the reality that you like. That's like you said, if you want to call it God, source, higher power, that energy is really trying to guide you in a way. That's what it feels like to me, to accept the present moment. Be happy in what you have now. Don't go seeking happiness in material things. That's the number one mistake. Don't do that, because material things come and go. And if you can't let go of the material, then how are you going to enjoy anything? That's a very hard concept, I think, for many people to wrap their head around, because we live
Hmm.
in a very material world.
Hmm.
Just why astral projection was so pivotal for me to kind of be like, okay, well, I can leave my body and go wherever I'd like, but I have to be able to be okay and happy with my physical body that is here right now. Right now, I'm here in this moment, and you need to be able to appreciate that. That was huge. That was really big for me. And I feel like that was like a very emotionally violent journey going through that. Like, I'm sure you can relate with, but it was necessary to get to where I am now. And I will continue to need to have that strength
Hmm.
as a spiritual warrior to be able to battle with the forces that are out there. We do have light forces and we have dark forces, the yin and the yang. It's very, very important. And that has been around since the beginning of humanity. You cannot have one without the other.
Hmm.
So being present in the moment and being grounded is so important, and being able to appreciate that. I think it's a huge, huge thing that we're missing right now. We need to be able to spread that message more. So, yeah.
Yeah. So much truth. And two things I want to say that just came up while you were saying all of this is there's this quote that if you only seek, you won't find. Seeking
Mm,
makes the human heart blind.
mm, mm,
And I also just want to say to anyone who's listening, something that's really helped me is through Taoism, while we're on the subject of Eastern philosophy, is learning the nature of yin and yang and really honing in on that really helped me understand the nature of this reality.
100%. I would
Yeah.
agree. That was that was huge for me. That was really big. Understanding that we need the darkness. You need to actually be able to like deal with that.
Hmm.
You can't have one without the other. It's an esoteric thing. It's something that it really does transcend humanity. It's a
Hmm.
spiritual thing that lies within all of us. And I feel like there is a collective consciousness that the human race shares. And I believe that animals also have it too. Because our connection with animals, you think about it objectively, really doesn't make that much sense. how can we communicate with dogs or cats or whatever? I don't know. They can sense our energy. Like I feel like they have a way more in tune way of connecting with us than we have with them, but we can still communicate with them. And that feels esoteric. So it's like, well, if we can do that, then there has to be some sort of energetic field or something around us. So we don't have to put a physical idea to it, but it's that same kind of mindset that Eastern philosophies have been preaching for thousands of years, that there is something that is bigger than us here.
Mhm.
Respect it, try and wrap your head around it as much as you can, but it's okay if you're not able to, because at the end of the day, no one really is able to. We don't know a lot of things. That's fine. But putting yourself in a position to be able to try and understand as much as you can is how I feel you're able to open up, your third eye, if you want to say that, and really see further than these two eyes here. That's the most important thing I think that I've kind of come or it has come from the journey that I've been on, and understanding yin and yang, and that the dark forces and the light forces are necessary and that they need each other, but that doesn't mean you need to be an evil person. I think that people might misunderstand that. It's a balance. That's the whole
Mhm.
point. And you can represent it in whatever way you want. But, the balance and the duality is so important. I would agree.
Yes. But before I get into my closing questions, one thing I do want to ask you is what does it mean to you to be a spiritual warrior?
Yeah. Well, I feel like my grandma is someone who I really I try and I try and talk with her as much as I can, especially nowadays. She's getting older and she has a lot of stories from the home country and things that don't really make sense here in the United States. And my family talks about it. I feel like there has been this spiritual war that my family has fought to get to the United States from Haiti. And I didn't quite understand that as a kid. But as I've gotten older, I feel like what it really means for me, and my grandma embodies it, is no matter what is thrown at you, you were able to pick yourself up from the darkest depths, from the deepest oceans. No matter what it is, you can pick yourself up spiritually first. Because if you cannot pick yourself up spiritually, you can forget about the physical. It doesn't matter. The spiritual realm rules all.
Mm.
That is the first place that you need to go to the gym, quote unquote. The mind gym is, in my opinion, more important than the physical gym. Because you could go to the gym all day. If you don't fix what's up here, you're done. So I feel like being a spiritual warrior for me is really strengthening the neuroplasticity that comes with growing those pathways. Like you don't have to be born into a so-called spiritual family to be able to see these things. No, you could be the first person in your family to do this. Um, I am not. I am from a family that is deeply religious. And my grandma's a very religious person, but I think that she almost kind of doesn't notice that she is a spiritual warrior and that she is someone, she can communicate with entities, with spirits. I mean, she's basically what people will call, I guess, a psychic, but like she's guessed all the genders of all the babies that have been born in my family. She knew when everyone was pregnant. I mean, it's like that sort of stuff where you're like, what is that? What is that? Like, they don't teach that in books.
It's
What?
the
Where's the?
Caribbean air.
Yeah, yeah. Like, I don't know, man. For real. Like, but yeah, I think that's what it means to me. Just being to connect to that deeper level of understanding of yourself.
Mm.
Okay, fighting with my mind. I'm going through this battle. Okay, but is it really a battle with the exterior or is it a battle with the interior? That's what I feel like the spiritual warrior kind of mindset and what that means to me is being able to have the battle with yourself and face the person in the mirror and go to war with yourself every day. And whoever you were the day before, you're not that person when you wake up the next day. I think that's what it means to me.
Yes. Mm. Hmm. I'm telling you though, like every friend of mine who has an elder from the Caribbean, they all have some like
It's
like
just something down
there's something in the soil or something.
there. Yeah. For real. I don't know what it is.
Yeah. Oh, Seabass, this is such a treat. We definitely need to
Yeah,
continue our
agreed.
talk
Yes,
because this is like I want to stay in communication because this is like really feeding my soul in so many ways.
100%. Likewise, Steph. This has been great. I feel like I've been waiting for a platform like this for a long time. So it was God's grace that you reached out.
Hmm.
I really appreciate it.
Yeah. My last closing questions that I ask all my guests is number one, I'm really big into food therapy. It's a part of my practice in Chinese medicine as well as my own journey of really coming home to myself. As we
Yeah.
spoke earlier, it's that marriage of the body and the soul. If in Chinese medicine, qi, our life force energy, and blood is what's fed by the food we eat, and they say blood is the mother of qi. And so when you nourish the blood, you are nourishing your life force. So,
Mm.
on that note, what is a food, a meal, an herb, whatever comes to mind that has really been pivotal in your path towards nourishment and really intertwining with your body?
Um, I love pho. Like pho is something
Okay.
that I feel like I'm just like obsessed with. Like since I was a kid, I've always loved it. But I like actually had some pho before I came up here to speak with you. I feel like that is a food, a dish that has so many different flavors and is from a very rich culture in Vietnam, of course. That it really nourishes my body and I feel very full when I drink a bowl of pho. And I feel like that's why a lot of people, when they're sick or whatever, like, I'm gonna get some pho, like it hits the spot. And I'm gonna probably go to the gym after this. And like I feel great. There's everything that I need in that bowl. And I feel like I wasn't like a big soup guy, but pho was always like just in my life. My mom loves pho, my grandma loves pho, like everyone just loves pho. And I grew up with a lot of Vietnamese people as well. In Cambridge here in Massachusetts, there's a large Vietnamese community. I'm in Boston, but when I was in Cambridge, I went to school with a lot of Viet kids, and I think it was just like a huge part of my upbringing. I didn't realize, and my mom actually knows how to make it too. So it's kind of crazy that something that's not necessarily culturally ours is something that I really like to consume, and I do see it as like a spiritual dish.
Mm.
You sit down with the soup, and you have to take your time to eat, and it's just there's a lot of reflection and there's flavor, and food is really big for me. I would agree with you. I'm also a food therapy person, but yeah, I would say fuzz is something that it has a lot of meaning to me, not only in terms of it being really good, but I feel like I've been able to explore a lot through different conversations I've had over bowls of pho.
Aw.
Stuff like that, like you don't really think about it like that,
Yeah.
until you do. So yeah. And what was the second part of the question?
So, the second, well, first I want to say next time you visit or I visit, we're gonna get
Yeah.
some fun together, the
Yeah.
official
Yes.
fuel of the spiritual warrior.
Yeah.
So my next question, and you can share it to whatever depth you're comfortable with. I would love for you to share a pearl that's come from either a recent darkness that you have recently found yourself moving through or that you've recently found yourself on the other side of.
Hmm. Um, well, I mean, I don't want to harp on it too much, but I feel like having that major traumatic event last year with Will's passing, there was a lot of darkness that followed. I got COVID. I was in a huge bike accident, and then Will passed all within 5 days.
Oof.
Uh, so that was like probably the lowest point of my entire life. And I felt physically weak because I had broken my wrist. I just was a really bad place, obviously, and I had to go speak at his service, and had all of our friends and some of the Florida guys came up, which was amazing. Was to see, I think Chandler came up, and Chad. It was just great to see those guys. But there was a lot of darkness that followed that, alone in solitude, and I feel like I discovered a new part of myself that Will seemed to know existed, but I didn't know it existed. His belief in me and what I was doing was always so strong. And I didn't really see it a lot of the time. I was just like, oh man, I'm gonna just do this music thing. I'm gonna just do this. I'm gonna do that. But he really believed in me, and I think that that strength that he saw in me was something that I discovered within myself in this past year. And I feel like I'm not going to be on like the other side per se of his death or his passing, but I've come to peace, knowing that he is at peace. You know, he is finally resting at peace, and that his spirit has transcended, and that really allowed me, I think, to pursue whatever I was not pursuing fully with more veracity, because that's what he would want, and that's what he always believed I could do, even if I didn't believe it myself. So I feel like that is something that I really, really have thought about. And coming from, last year to now, I started my own business. I got this IDM page that I've been working on. I have a great job, very thankful. I work for the state in the union. There's a lot to be thankful for that I didn't have prior. And I wasn't really thinking about life in that way. I was kind of just, it felt like I was almost just like coasting along, like in mediocrity, and I just wasn't really trying as hard as I could have. And Will always like, dude, you gotta like do this, you gotta do that. And I just didn't really push as hard as I could. So I feel like this year I really learned to dig deep and push yourself to the limits you didn't know existed. Push yourself to pursue the dreams that you've always wanted to do, because we have one life to live. And we are very, very thankful that we reincarnated here in the physical form that we did. Because who knows? I could have been a cat or something. Okay.
Which wouldn't
You know,
be a bad
no,
incarnation.
but being in this plane, in this moment, in this time, I think is really, really, it's very fortunate for all of us that we are here. And I don't take that for granted. And I feel like I did. I feel like for a long time I took it for granted. And I didn't think about my own family sacrifice that got me here. And Will was always like super into just like living life and being kind of at the pinnacle of whatever experience you could have. And so I try and embody that every day. I try and live my life at all times of day. I got a tattoo on my forearm here, which represents 4 seasons, 4 cardinal directions, the 4 periods of life, and the 4 times a day. So it's something that I really try to embody. Travel as much as you can, live life as much as you can, and every single time of day that you are awake and breathing is a time to be able to get after it, or for introspection, or for whatever you want to do. But live your life, and don't sacrifice things because you don't believe you can do them, or you feel passive about it. That's not why we were put here on this earth and given this life. It's a privilege to be here, and you would do well not to forget it. So I try and tell myself that every single day.
Thank you, Seabass.
Of course.
And thank you, Will.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, to finish out, please share how people can find you.
Yeah. Well, you can follow me on all the platforms. I have a YouTube channel, TikTok, not as active on there, more active on Instagram, but it's Daily Manifestation is the handle for all of them. And I am going to be starting a 4-week course. I'm building that right now. So hopefully I can get that launched by next month. But yeah, please go ahead, follow me, like, subscribe, whatever you like to do. I'm trying to push my content on all different platforms. And I appreciate any support.
Yeah, and I'll include all of that in the show notes for anyone who wants to check him out.
Cheers. Thank you, Steph. I appreciate you.
Well, that is all for today, my friends. If you enjoyed this episode and would like to support this podcast, please leave your rating and your review, share with a friend, and make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss an episode. This is your reminder that all of Seabass's information is in the show notes, and if you would like to connect with me as well, you can find my information in the show notes. I will be feeling your energy in the next episode.